here in this beautiful forest, you can hear the rushing waterfalls of the River Braan, which is behind me here. This is a mythic landscape of the hero Fionn McCool, a great warrior, wizard, shaman, legendary figure of the Gaelic people of Ireland and Scotland. And it's here that the salmon leap up the waterfalls in the autumn as they make their way to the place where they were originally born, and they go back to spawn to create the next generation. And this story is about the king's salmon and how Fionn McCool came to eat of its flesh and become the wisest in the world. A long time ago, Fionn's father, Cuo, was killed by bandits and ne'er-do-wells, and he was fostered out to a family who looked after him. And by the time he was a little boy, even 3 years old, there was a light about him, and his family knew he was very special. So they needed him to go and train with another wise man, and the wisest they knew was Finnegas, an old druid who lived in the forest. So Fionn went with him and learned the ways of nature, and Finnegas could see the boy had an incredible light about him. And Fionn was also taught how to serve, how to make fires, how to make food, and look after the old master Finnegas. And Fionn, of course, was very loyal to him and would do anything that Finnegas bade him do. Well, there came a time as the full moon approached, where the old man seemed very, very excited and distracted. And he said to Fionn, "Tonight is a special night. On this night, up the river returns the king's salmon, this great fish. Do you know the king's salmon? Goes home to his pool every year, somewhere upstream, and no human knows where the pool is. But around that pool are planted 9 magic hazel trees. These were planted by the gods of old, and each tree embodies eternal wisdom. The tree makes nuts every year, and the nuts fall into the pool in which the king salmon swims, and when the king salmon eats the nuts, this ancient wisdom is renewed and grown. So Fionn, any man, any person, any human who catches the king's salmon and eats of its flesh, eats of that wisdom of the old gods." And young Fionn, "I plan to catch it," said Phineas. So that night, as the full moon shone on the raging white water in the river, Finnegas went out with a big hook on a pole, and Fionn followed him with a net, and they waited. And it was cold, and Fionn's hands were getting stiff, but he didn't dare complain to his master. All of a sudden, as he was sort of nodding off, he was jolted awake by Finnegas saying, "Fionn, here is the king's salmon!" And there was a huge flash in the pool beneath them. And Finnegas got the hook into it. "Throw the net," said Finnegas, "and help me pull the thing in." Well, it was enormous. And many times they thought the salmon would win the battle, but it was all tangled in the net, and somehow in the struggle they got this great fish onto the shore. It shone in the moonlight. It was magnificent. "I can't believe we've done this," said Finnegas. "Now we must cook it without delay." And they made a fire, and the smoke rose up and the coals glowed, and they put the salmon on one long spit of hazel wood. "Oh, Fionn, young fellow," said Finnegas, "I'm so exhausted. I can't keep my eyes open any longer. Fionn McCool, you must cook this salmon. And when it's done, you must wake me, for your master is going to taste of the king's salmon and be the wisest in the world." "Wow," said Fionn, "how wonderful. My master would be the wisest in the world. Well, that would be something to brag about, and I'm sure I'll get wise too." So with those excited thoughts, Fionn McCool turned the spit and carefully got the salmon cooking evenly on every side, careful not to burn it. And as the twilight of morning came, he could see the salmon was gold. Salmon are usually silver and speckled, and this golden fish was very, very special. "Oh, I wonder if it's done," said Fionn. I should check if it's done. I want to get it right for the master before I wake him, and he put his thumb on the flesh to check. The salmon should be a kind of flaky, buttery consistency. Then it's perfectly done. Ow! When Fionn touched it, it was hot, and when you burn your fingers, what do? Ah! Oh, as Fionn tasted a tiny bit of that salmon's flesh on his finger, everything seemed to change. The world seemed to light up with an aura, a beautiful aura around every living being, plant, animal, fungus, everything in between shone. The forest was singing to Fionn. He could see the stars of the universe beyond the blue sky, and the galaxies sang too, and it's like Fionn in that moment knew everything. Everything past, everything present, everything future. Time itself had melted into one reality. It was almost too much. Said Fionn. I feel like I know everything, and I am at one with everything. And then the old man slowly roused himself. He'd heard Fionn shout in pain when he touched the salmon. "Fionn, boy, the salmon smells great. Is it ready?" "Oh." And when Finnegas took one look at Fionn's radiant face, he knew that Fionn had become illuminated. "Why did you eat the salmon, boy? That was supposed to be for me," said Finnegas. "I'm sorry," said Fionn. "It truly was an accident. I just poked it for you to see if it was ready to eat, and I was going to call you, and I tasted of it when I burnt my finger, and oh, master, I guess this is just meant to be." Finnegas cried tears of sadness. Oh, he was the first one to catch this salmon of knowledge as far as he knew in all of human history, and the boy had beat him to the flesh. But Finnegas was a wise and humble man, and realized, of course, that his pupil Fionn would go ahead of him and excel him and become the wisest in all the land, perhaps in all the world. And that made him proud, knowing that onward through the generations this wisdom would travel, and the wisdom would travel back to the ancestors as well. So the ancestors would be healed as well as those in the future. And Fionn McCool grew up to be a great warrior and a great shaman and a man of magic and wisdom, and there are so many tales of his bravery and of the suffering he and his men endured, and his great leadership and his humanness that caused him always to be humble and to learn from success and from failure. Well, that is the first story, the first adventure of Fionn. Eating of the salmon of wisdom, here by the River Braan, where the waters rage, and still every October the salmon leap